What are the various devices? The first line of left ventricular assist device is intra-aortic balloon pump. Next comes the impella pump, and the third line of drug are going to be the LVAD and the veno-arterial ECMO. And these devices can be classified as pulsatile or continuous. IABP comes under pulsatile, and your impeller and LVAD and ECMO comes as continuous flow pumps. This continuous flow pump can be further classified as axial flow pump or centrifugal flow pump. The impeller is axial flow and LVAD and ECMO are centrifugal flow pump. Apart from that, this can be classified as intracorporeal or extracorporeal. Here intracorporeal is IABP and impeller, and extracorporeal is LVAD and ECMO. What do you mean by intracorporeal? Here the device is inside the aorta or inside the heart. Extracorporeal is the device is outside the vascular lumen or outside the heart. Now coming to intra-aortic balloon pump. Here the balloon is placed via femoral artery into the descending thoracic aorta. You enter the aorta through the femoral artery. First a needle is being inserted, then a guide wire goes into the femoral artery, then this part is dilated with the dilator so that the sheath and the balloon can go in. Now the balloon is being inserted and the balloon will go into the descending thoracic aorta just below the left subclavian artery. That will be the location. Here you can see the balloon is placed just below the left subclavian artery. Now coming to the working of intra-aortic balloon pump. Here the balloon is being connected to the gas source, which is helium. This is the gas source through which the gas comes inside the balloon. The balloon inflates and deflates. This is how it works. It inflates and deflates. So how it helps? It deflates during the systole. Here you can see the balloon deflating during systole, thereby decreasing the afterload and improving the myocardial performance. And what happens in diastole is it inflates in diastole. So here you can see the balloon inflates in diastole, thereby your coronary perfusion is increased. The two main physiological implication of intra-aortic balloon pump is by deflating in systole it decreases your afterload, and by inflating in diastole it increases the coronary perfusion. And how does IABP help in a patient with acute event? This is a patient who had an acute myocardial infarction. Here you can see a gross ST depression and your mean arterial pressure is around 49. So the mean pulmonary artery pressure is higher than the mean arterial pressure and saturation is maintained. This patient was definitely ischemic. Now we have decided to put intra-aortic balloon pump. Let us see how the event changes with intra-aortic balloon pump. The minute you put the balloon pump, here you can see the mean arterial pressure is increased to 90 and the mean pulmonary artery pressure decreased to 38. This is how an IABP helps in a patient with severe hemodynamic disturbance. Now coming to the second line of left ventricular assist device, it is called the impeller pump. Here the pump goes via the aortic valve into the left ventricular cavity and takes the blood from the left ventricle and pumps into the aorta. That is impeller. In impeller again you cannulate via femoral artery and go through the aorta. Here you can see the pump being there, then it crosses the aortic valve and goes inside the left ventricular cavity. It is crossing the aortic valve and going into the left ventricular cavity. Then this axial pump works and takes the blood from the left ventricle and pumps into aorta, thereby unload the ventricle and increases the coronary perfusion, reduces your myocardial oxygen consumption and increase end organ perfusion. That is, it increases the cardiac output. This is how a impeller pump works externally. The axial pump is located here. It takes the blood from here and pumps into the aorta. This is an external working just to demonstrate how an impeller will work. And for placing the impeller catheter inside the left ventricular cavity, you have to go to the cath lab. This is the normal location of the aortic valve. In this X-ray, I have shown the position of the aortic valve so that you can understand how an impeller goes across the aortic valve into the left ventricular cavity. This is the location of the impeller pump. It is passed across the aortic valve into the left ventricular cavity. This is how it is positioned in the cath lab, and it can be confirmed with an echocardiogram. This is the aorta, and you can see the impeller pump across the aortic valve, and this is the left ventricular cavity. Here you can see the blood from the left ventricle goes into the aorta. This is how an impeller works. Now coming to the third line of left ventricular assist device, that is LVAD or a tandem heart. Here the cannula goes via RA, punctures the septum and goes into the LA, and this blood comes into the pump and goes via femoral artery into the systemic circulation. That is left ventricular assist device. In another word, it takes blood from the left side of the heart and gives back to the aorta. That is how it is done. This is the first generation LVAD, where there is external pump which takes the blood from the left ventricle and pumps into the aorta. This is the first generation LVAD which was implanted way back in 1999. One blood from the LV and another one goes into the aorta. Now coming to the last one, extracorporeal membrane oxygenator. Here the cannula is in the right atrium. It takes the blood and you have an oxygenator which oxygenates the venous blood, and this blood goes into the systemic circulation or a femoral artery. You take the blood from the venous chamber and pump into the arterial chamber. That is what ECMO does after oxygenation. Now coming to the indications of left ventricular assist device. Let us look at each indication and what is the rationale behind putting the left ventricular device and what is the order of device which will